Hello, Namo Buddhaya. Good evening. Welcome to the Buddha Dharma TV English program. I am Karen Tan. Today, we have on our program a wonderful sermon by a popular preacher. And we also have a good piece of music from wayfarers. We also have a Dhammapada sermon. Now we begin our program with a popular and respected Buddhist monk from the USA. He is Dr. Venerable Chandana. He has delivered many sermons on Buddha Dharma TV on varied topics. We had the first part last week, and today we have the second and the final part. The topic of his sermon is Gaining True Freedom. Let's respectfully listen to his sermon and gain wisdom. Please listen to the sermon mindfully and with due devotion.
I have a question.
Yes.
Good morning. You had mentioned that the meditations wouldn't, I forget the exact wording you said, but the meditations that we do aren't going to get us to where we want. Could you explain that a little more?
Mm-hmm. Good question. The Buddha was a realist, and we're sometimes surprised to read how often people were able to attain the goal. But we neglect in the 21st century, or even centuries prior to us, that is not, the situation where so many people are able to attain the first, second, third, and fourth stages of awakening. And why is that? And the method is solid when we look at the Dhamma, the teaching. However, so much corruption has taken place. Additions of do this other thing, do this other thing, do this. If you rely on this, if you rely on chanting this sutra, for example, or this sutta, or this ritual, or do these other things almost in a, well, not almost, but in a systematic way, but rather superficially, where we're not ever just going deep enough. It's very similar to meditation. Basically is supposed to be digging, using the right tools, but digging continuously. It's like that gentleman who was given a plot of land by his very rich friend who owned a land and that had gold mine underneath the house. And this poor friend, compared to the rich, always came in and complained about his situation, being poor. And his friend gets fed up one day and he says, you know what, here's some hoes and shovels. I'm going to give you the key to my house, to my land. I'm going to come back in a month. You have everything that this land possesses, and I guarantee you there's gold underneath. So go ahead, have your fill. But in a month, I'm going to come back and take back the keys. But whatever you get during that month is yours. And the friend gets excited for 1 or 2 days and starts digging. Now, a month later, his friend comes back and he looks around. It's just like in shambles. There's one hole here, 2 holes there, 4 holes there. And he says, what did you do? And he says, well, I kept digging, but there's no gold. You lied. And he says, you're an idiot. There's gold. I told you there's gold. How far deep down did you go? He says, well, the most I've gone was about 5 feet, but I figured at 5 feet I should get something. So we're always looking for cookies. We run away from worldly pleasures, but most of us are looking for otherworldly pleasures. You can even call them jhanas, or feeling good. That's what we're after. Well, we haven't left this scene of tug of wars. A person who's practicing the method of meditation, of satipatthana, which is impeccable in its in it being flawless, in taking a person to exactly where the Buddha was and his arahants experienced. However, we don't do that because we're still craving, we're still wanting to go after the pleasure. I have students who want to come in and experience the jhanas. Nothing wrong with that. But the problem is, many people want to get the cookies. But those are gifts. Those are like side notes that come in. Any meditation that deserves the title of a meditation in this tradition needs to enhance one's own wisdom, whereabout the person chooses less of unwholesome actions, thoughts, speech, versus wholesome ones. So the balance rises, increases, of wholesome choices being made. And by that same token, there's less and less dukkha, suffering experienced. Many people think that Nibbana is somewhere over there, in time to take place, somewhere. If I do these steps, that's where, no. Nibbana happens also in small doses, in tiny aha moments. The Buddha called them insights. That's why we also practice vipassana, which is part of the satipatthana, the mindfulness, establishing of mindfulness and going deeper in oneself. But what we do is we seek and we go after anything that is causing us pleasure. Now, the moment that student realizes that, well, the experiences I had last week, Bhante, how come they're not reoccurring? So obviously this meditation is wrong. Sounds familiar with that guy who was digging? Because of his expectations, which takes us back to sanya. And this is what I meant by also having a level of trust. But we're not blindly trusting anyone, including the Buddha. It has to make sense to us. It has to offer us something that our lives thus far have been unable to provide us with. And that's where also we need to be honest with ourselves. Because what often happens is, and this again ties in with the meditation, being needed to be correct, that takes us there. When there is a meditative practice that an individual is engaged in, if that meditation practice neglects to grant sufficient amount of importance to sila, to discipline, to moral discipline, that is not going to lead you anywhere other than just keep in a loop of ignorance, which I have seen quite a bit of. People just focus on, oh yes, I'm practicing the 10-day retreat, or I'm going this way, I'm going the 3-4 months retreat, silent retreat. Wonderful. That's good discipline, mental. But what about your morality, your ethics, your virtuous behavior? Is it there? I've sat in shock, rather. I was going to say awe, but in shock, when I've come across individuals who've been practicing for years meditation, and they don't shy away from announcing it to the world, but then suddenly they're dropping the F-bomb left and right. They're drinking wine and things like that. They're getting intoxicated. I'm like, okay, there's something wrong here. But they are meditators in their mind and in the circle. That is what I mean by wrong meditation, because it completely neglects sila, which is the first very important first step. The first training, there's 3 trainings: sila, samadhi, panya. So they want to completely forego the first one, sila, and just jump on into the samadhi, hoping that they're going to get some insights. Well, that's not, life doesn't allow us that. So how come the Dhamma is going to give us that? So we need to be very alert, and it's our responsibility to see, okay, this is what it claims to be, and let me practice. And if I'm not seeing the results, it is stupidity for me to continue doing it and expecting a different result. So how does that sound?
Yeah, I think that does sound good. And the time, like whether it's 20 minutes, 30 minutes, twice a day, once a day, that would be up to each individual and whether they see the change in their life, I suppose. You know, it's different per person, I assume.
Oh, well, there is, yes. I mean, when a person comes in and says, Bhante, I'm not able to sit more than a minute, sit a minute. And they come back and the next day they say, Bhante, I pushed and pushed and pushed and now got it to 5 minutes. I'm not going to discourage them by saying, well, that's not good. You need to have sat for 30 minutes at least. That's totally, non-constructive, to say the least. However, then my urging of them to sit more will expand to other areas of their lives, meaning, can they be able to carry that state of awareness or mindfulness in the different phases of their life, daily life?
Right.
So I would encourage them to look at their thoughts more closely. Not even, I won't even use the mind because it's too subtle for many of us. So what I do is, when you walk into a room, let's say, any room, any doorway, you're moving from your living room, from your balcony, from your porch, inside into the living room area, whatever. Can you mentally be present enough to be aware as to which foot is moving in first, moving into the room or moving out of the room? That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing extravagant.
Yeah.
That way, the person develops this deeper level of intimacy with this thing called mindfulness. And it's no longer becoming, as they practice, it no longer stays superficial because it's becoming part and parcel of their wakeful DNA, if you want to call it, just like where they're carrying it through their different activities. Suddenly, even in the midst of a very intense conversation, a call, let's say, suddenly they're going to notice that their heart is palpitating or they're getting agitated in the mind. Bhante didn't tell them to be mindful of that conversation, but they inevitably become. So what's happening is the bucket, if you will, of mindfulness naturally starts to increase in its content of awareness, more and more and more. And conversely, less and less quantities of sleep or completely being deluded or forcing ourselves to stay deluded about something. They're becoming less. And suddenly, the 6 senses that carry in information to you, whether it's flavors, sights, smells, etc., now they have a different nuance, a different texture, a depth to them suddenly. And that's when the person is actually pulling themselves away from the tug of war and coming closer and closer and closer to the midpoint, where there is less and less of that agitated state of mind. Does that help?
Oh yes. Yeah. I've noticed, starting to do that, like pay attention, not
Good.
during my official meditation sessions. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm glad. And please don't hesitate from being curious as to, you know what? I'm sitting for 20 minutes. Let me try an extra minute. Because in all fairness, 20 minutes, I mean, the sitting is very important, even if it's 1 minute. However, there is a time, a bundle of time, if you will, that really makes one to go deeper if it is consistent. That's another thing. And frequent, meaning if it's 1 hour or 30 minutes a day, 30 minutes is what I'm driving at, basically. Eventually, I would get the student to go to 45 and then hover around 1 hour. But it's too much for many people. So that's why I say, well, let's start with something much less, but be curious enough to go, I wonder how it feels if I can extend it by 1 minute, by 2, by 3. Back in the day when I used to be a trainer, when I would get a person who couldn't do one single push-up, eventually I would really, encourage them this and that, and then cheer them on to get them to be curious enough to push their muscles to do a half extra. And then that half became 2. Suddenly they do 2 push-ups. They were able to do 20 and even more. So leaving a door open for the person to be, you know what, let's try. What do I have to lose? And maintaining that maintenance is extremely important in this path. So thank you for your question.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chandana. Hope to see you next time. Thank you for everybody's time is running. So let me explain next week, which is the July 18th, Sunday service. Dharma talk is going to give Silas Mahajan, the Nepalese teacher, is going to give a next Sunday Dharma talk. And the August, either 22nd or the 29th, either the Sunday, we are planning to do the Ulambana service, which is offering merit for the departure relative. It's going to be either last Sunday or before that Sunday. I mean, either 22 or 29 August. It's going to be outside, backyard. We provide lunch for the lay people, and for the monks, we provide the dana also. All right. Thanks for everybody. We're going to chant the page 4 and page 10. Namo tassa bhagavatu arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavatu arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Buddhang
Saranang gacchami, Dhammang saranang gacchami, Sanghang saranang gacchami.
Sentient beings are numberless. I vow to save them all. During passions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them all. Dharma gates are limitless. I vow to study them all. Buddha's way is supreme. I vow to attain it. May suffering ones be suffering free, and the fears of fearless be. May the grieving shall weep, and the sick find help to live. May all merit
Be extended to
everyone, that we together with all beings may gain Buddha's way. Om Mani Padme. Thank you again for everybody. Thank you, Chandana. Thank you, all the monks and Ashan, everybody, all the members. Thank you again. By the power of the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, you all be well and happy. Thank you. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Now, let's have a short break and enjoy a music of wayfarers. They are devotional and full of meaningful guidelines. next program is the Dhammapada. The Dhammapada means the path of Dhamma, of truth, of righteousness, of the universal law. Buddha's teaching is an ongoing path, a way of perfection which anyone can follow to the highest good. The Dhammapada is a map for this journey. The verses of the Dhammapada can be read and appreciated, simply as a philosophy, and it is a sure guide to the highest goal life can offer. Now, here is Professor Bande Siwali to present a brief sermon on the verse
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Good evening. Welcome to the Buddha Dharma TV and Dhammapada program. Thank you for coming. And today we are going to discuss verse number 112 and also 113. We have discussed last week, in a brief, of course, 4 jhanas, absorptions. I want to discuss it in details, but it needs more time. Therefore, I will focus on this verse number 112 and 113th. The 112th begins with Yocha vassa satam jive kusito hina viryo ekam jivitang seyo viryamarato dallam. Viryamarato dallam. Buddha is always critical of those who are lazy, unwise, non-virtuous. He always encouraged them to get involved in the spiritual life, to be virtuous, to be courageous, energetic. That life is full of joy, happy, and also calm. Yocha vassa satam jive. Again he talks about the ones who live 100 years and lazy, of little effort. Yet better is life for a single day, strongly and making effort. It's not the number of years, but how we live is very important for our life. So it says that the virya of bodhisattvas clearly depicted in the Maha Janaka Jataka tales. We carry on our Buddha Dharma TV program from time to time. Jataka tales are very important, and it gives a good directions, encouragement for us how to make our life energetic, how we get involved in a positive way, how we become energetic and be spiritual. That life is very important. A single day's life of a wise person who is capable of strenuous effort is nobler than even 100 years of life of an individual who is lazy, incapable of making an effort, and is wanting in initiative. Initiative is a person who's wise person who is capable of strenuous effort is always encouraged. Viryan. Virya is the word, effort, the Pali word, viryan. Especially a spiritual effort, closely allied with panya. Panya, wisdom, is virya, perseverance also can be used. Virya is perseverance. Here, virya does not mean physical strength, though this is an asset, but mental vigor or strength of character, which is far superior. Far superior. It is defined as the persistent effort to purify the mind. So that effort is a noble effort. The virya of a bodhisattva is clearly depicted in Mahajanaka Jataka, shipwrecked in the open sea for 7 days. The bodhisattva was striving to be enlightened, to be a Buddha, a long time ago. In the open sea for 7 days, in a shattered ship, he struggled on without once giving up hope until he was finally rescued. Failure he views as step to success. Opposition causes him to double his exertion. Dangers increase his courage. Cutting his way through difficulties. These stories are very important, encourages us, which impair the enthusiasm of the feeble, surmounting obstacles which dishearten the ordinary. He looks straight towards his goal. We must do the same way. Nor does he ever stop uphill task he took until his goal is reached. It was an uphill task, but he never stopped until he reaches his goal. This is what we have to get from this type of story, Jatak tales. what type of effort, energy, perseverance he had to reach his goal. It's sometimes unthinkable. When he was trying to be a Buddha in his last life, it was his last life when he was attained enlightenment. It was a living, moving skeleton. No flesh, skin is attached to the bones. Such was his physical body. Lack of food, lack of many things, but he never gave it up. And he said later, Vaya meteva puriso yava atpasa sampada. One should never give up. Never give up until one reaches his goal. This is what is important that we can learn from Jataka stories. In certain aspect, Virya plays an even greater part than Panya. Panya is the wisdom in the achievement of the goal. In one who treads the noble eightfold path, right effort, Samma Vayama, one of the eightfold, or Virya, prevents the rising of evil states, removes those which have arisen, and cultivates good deeds, and maintains and develops those good states which have already arisen. What is not arisen, he tries to cultivate. What is already arisen, tries to develop. And this mindfully, this strives hard. Therefore, it looks like more than Panya, Virya plays a vital role. Not always, but here. Samma Vayama, right effort. Harmonious effort. Or Virya. It is Virya that performs the function of the four modes of right endeavors. It is one of the five powers, Virya, Bala, and one of the five controlling faculties, Viryendriya. Viryendriya faculties, one of them. So Virya is one of the faculties. Virya, therefore, may be regarded as an officer. An officer, a watcher, security guard. Sure to know the common name. That performs 9 functions. 9 functions. It is this persistent effort to develop the mind that serves as a powerful hand to achieve all ends. Virya. Paina virya, that means absence of virya, efforts. Kusito, laziness. These are burdens, obstacles, hindrances for the progress on the path of liberation. So, it is Therefore, important to understand these things in details so that we will be able to put right thinking towards right efforts, a bit of effort to reaching close to the liberation. As Buddha said always, Kammaro rajatas seva dhokathokan khane khane. I very often remind this to our friends, Buddhists. Isn't that? Yeah, good. Remember that is in Pali, yes. Kammaro rajatas seva dhokathokan khane khane. Yes, you have to do it. All these defilements, little by little, you try to eliminate, drop, and Kammaru Rajatase Tokan Kanekeni, little by little, gradually. Therefore, though one should live 100 years, not seeing rise and fall, that is the verse number 13, 113 says, one who is unable to see rise and fall, yet better is the life of a single day seeing the rise and fall. Rise and fall. If you live one day, if you can see rise and fall, then it is more important than hundreds of years if you are not able to see the rise and fall. A single day's life of a person who perceives the rising and the disappearance of things experienced is nobler and greater than the 100-year lifespan of a person who does not perceive the process of the rising and the disappearance of things. Rise and fall, birth and death. Birth and death, rise and fall. Become younger and slowly end up in old age and thereby end up in death. Birth, youth, old age, and the death. This, what is called rise and fall. If you are not aware of this, it's better to try to learn, try to be aware of this. When you are sometimes nothing to do, don't think of, just think of this. Think of, oh, I was born and I was young age. My last few years at my age, 10, 20, 30, 40, and I am now 50, or now I'm reaching 60, 70. My energy, my beauty, my courage, my stamina, all gone. I'm just hanging around. Less energy. Right? Less energy, less courage, less beauty. No effort, energy, nothing can be done. I'm waiting for final destination. That is death, which I don't want to hear, see. That's what's the normal way of thinking of the normal people. But try to think of that. Rise and fall, birth, death. When you're close to death, you see, no, I'm not afraid of it. have the courage, have the knowledge. I'm not afraid. It's coming to everyone. It came to my parents, my others, relatives, friends, and it's coming to me on the way. I'm ready for that. I'm waiting to grab it with a smile. That is the very effort to look at things in their proper perspective, intelligently. And a person who is doing that is a real person who is the person or noble person. He can see, perceives the relation and the disappearance of things. Experienced is nobler and greater than 100-year lifespan of a person who does not perceive these things, who is afraid of death, who is hiding from the death, who is trying to hide from the death, but he doesn't want to face, and crying, afraid. But those who are energetic, wise, they face the death brilliantly, intelligently, happily. When it comes to death, comes to it, oh, it is coming, I'm happy, hello, goodbye, birth. I go to face the death brilliantly, intelligently, with a good knowledge. This is the teaching of the Buddha. Therefore, try to live a life of a saint, understanding the true nature of the life, so that we will be able to face the reality intelligently, bravely. This is what the meaning, in essence, in a nutshell, of this 112th, 113th verses of the Dhammapada. May you all be blessed.
Today's program comes to a close. If you have any questions about the content or would like to share your valuable feedback, we welcome you to contact us anytime at info@buddhadharmatv.com. Our team is dedicated to spreading the Buddha's wisdom and compassion, with the sincere wish that these serene and profound teachings may reach the hearts of all those with affinity. May the unchanging light of the Buddha's wisdom guide you on the bright path of awakening and practice. Thank you sincerely for watching and being with us. May the sweet dew of the Dharma nourish your heart, bringing peace and joy. We see you again at the same time next week. Namo Buddhaya.